Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Bohan. Today we're going to working on a scenario on the Blue Team Labs Online. So they just retired one of this investigation scenario called Invoice. So let's just getting started. So basically, how this scenario is basically you just use Elk, Wireshark, and the Linux CLL to investigating this scenario. So let's go through the scenario very quick. So it says like every other day, Terry logged in and began working on his corporate laptop, but after a while he noticed several command prompts opened and closed without him doing anything. He suspects that his laptop has been infected with malware. He reports to the IT team to understand what is happening, and we have collected some system event logs both in JSON and CSV from Terra's laptop and network traffic in the form of a packet capture file to support the investigation. So use Elk or Linux CLI to analyze the retrieved system logs and use Wireshark GTK for analyzing the PCAP. So we wanted to use Elk in this case. So let's just getting started in this case. So the first thing you can just go into the scenario and just open the README. So the README says the Elk is up and running with the system event, and you can go into this URL to doing the investigations. So open the browser. So we will just wait for it to be loaded. So let's just so let's look for the question very quick. So the first question is, what is the name of the process responsible for the entry point of the incident? For this one, we can just search for so for this kind of questions, we can go into the discover. You want to like set up your time to you want to set it up to the very long time ago because this scenario is not created a while ago, so you want to set the time a little bit longer. And you also got this Wireshark PCAP file in here, so you can use. So we can also open that, open your investigation folder, and you will find the tools. You have CyberChief available for you, and you can also find this suspicious PCAP file. You want to use the Wireshark GTK version. GTK version basically it is like an older version of the Wireshark. So in this case, we want to just to like, I guess we can just like select a couple command line over here. So that's my like I always prefer to just use command line because it made really clear what kind of command the attacker potentially executed. So so in this case, we see that a lot of like cmd if config. We know that potentially the attacker is trying to get in the IP address. We also see something like btl04.exe that looks pretty malicious intent. pretty suspicious. So a lot of cmd if config. So but in this case, so we know that since this is like since we already know this is like a Fox IT software. So the Fox IT software, if you don't know what this is, basically it is this is like a PDF, free PDF software you can use to kind of like a PDF reader. But this in this case, we can just search for like search for the Fox IT. So what you wanna do is to actually look for all this invoice. So I think like if you search for the PDF, I think if you follow the standard way, you will find that because this get an invoice, typically that invoice is come either in the doc file or docx file, or it comes with like a PDF file. So you are just doing like trial and error. So in this case, I searched as a PDF, and it shows up as a like the PDF is invoice draft 17.pdf. So we know that the name of the process responsible for this entry point is associated with foxitreader.exe. So this is a command line in here, so that we know this one is actually the process name as well. So this is a process ID. You can also check it. So I'm not gonna check it for now. So next question is, what is the domain name of the C2 server that it connects to download the malware? So for this question, this is associated with Wireshark. So we wanted to search it in the Wireshark. So we wanted to just look for HTTP connection. That is a fast way to do it. So we can just look it. So we can see that invoice PS1 PowerShell is being there's a GET request to the PowerShell. So this was definitely malicious, and we got a bdl01.exe. We got some weird kind of like commands sending to the C2 server. So in this case, we wanted to look for that remote server that is malicious. So I think we can doing a name resolution. So this user Terry.local is actually making a request to the remote IP. But this case, I think we can also look for the HTTP request, because we are looking for the specific URL. So we see that URL, it has been marked as this URL is actually download btl1.exe, and invoice ps1. So if you look for that, what that two malicious file actually doing, you can see that btl1 invoice this one is actually, if you follow the HTTP stream, you will see that it is actually doing a third util, and it actually download. So certutil, if you don't know what it is basically a command line used to download remote file in the Windows machine. So it's basically download the URL btl1.exe from this URL and store it in the temp folder as btlo1.exe. So that is for the question 2. And the third question is what is the name of the document that actually connect to the C2 server. So for this question, um, so for this question, I was just looking for my notes, but for this question, we can actually go into the Fox reader again. So we can look for the Fox IT. So if you look for the invoice invoice final over here, you will see this is like from the user Terry. So the answer is the invoice final.pdf. So this is like an answer for this question. So it just I think this file is actually being executed, and it making that outbound traffic to that Wireshark, to that remote C2 IP. Yeah, so if you want to say this, I think if you want to say this in the, you still need to like look for the HTTP traffic just to so you want to say this is connecting to this malicious IP, and if you want to follow it, it's actually making a post request to connect to the remote IP address. It basically just needs some data to that remote IP, and it has been shown that this is like a Fox reader, like in X forward for Fox IT reader. It shows this is like actually a Fox reader is trying to make an outbound traffic to the remote IP address at yeah. So and so it connects to the C2 IP, and we found that Fox IT reader is in the packet. And if we search for the elk, we see that there's multiple incidents of this. This file is in the elk. So if you just try it, we have multiple like event in here. So it's making this connection. So we have. So it is likely that the user is actually open this PDF, and this PDF contains malicious content in it. So it just making outbound traffic to that malicious IP address. So we can move into the next. Question. So next question is, what file does PowerShell download CRUD download? So this one we have already answered before. So if you just look for the invoice, no, if you're just looking for the invoice.ps1 in our previous HTTP stream, we can actually see that invoice.ps1, if you follow the HTTP stream, is trying to utilize certutil, download a malicious malicious exe from this URL. So the answer for that is invoice.ps1. So this is a PowerShell download CRUD. Download this invoice.ps1. Download ps1. So for that one, I think actually we need to look for the PowerShell in the sysmon, and we can find that PowerShell is trying to making a remote. So this one basically PowerShell Windows style hidden is what it essentially is doing is to hide the PowerShell window so that user will not feel suspicious, and it making an executing this PowerShell is basically initiate the web client object in the PowerShell, and trying to download string is trying to download the PDF from this remote URL. So that is for the question, this question, and the next question we have already said earlier is the certutil.exe. We found this. You can find this either in here. We can see that certutil.exe is being utilized, or you can just look for the Wireshark. And what is C2 server that the exe malware connects before every command execution? So if you are going back to the Wireshark, you remember that if you just filter through the HTTP, so you remember that what I did is I just opened the view, and there's a name resolution. Just enable all of them, and it will resolve the name. So the name is it's basically essentially asking for what is C2 server that the exe malware connects before every command's execution. So commands execution, we see that commands execution is kind of like this question mark followed by btl equals y2m. So this is kind of like command and control. So asking for so this is the URL this malware contacts. This is like a remote URL this malware trying to reach before sending every command over here. So that is the answer. One of the requests to the C2 is unique, and the JSON data is returned in response. What are the fields in the JSON? So for this question, we can look for so for this question, there's a special Wireshark filtering we should use. So it's http.host equals root this localhost.run. So this is filter out this C2 server in our Wireshark. So just looking for all the traffic associated with this specific domain. If we just following through the we see that on the first packet, we see packet 18180. We see the post request, and we know that some data is being sent out or uploaded. So we can follow the HTTP stream. we can actually find that there is like a, so it's asking what are the fields in the JSON. So the field is a URL, asking the key. So the key is URL, file name, and who am I. So who am I is this one. So who am I is actually, this actually is a who am I.exe, but the attacker renamed it to btl01.exe. So the next question is, what is the first command executed by this malware? So that is pretty obvious question, I think. Let me see if I can find it in my notes. So if you see that in the ALK, there's like a samd.exe/c if config. So there's a lot of this command is being executed. So essentially, if you just search for it, or you can just I guess like you can just search for all these commands. Eventually you are tracing back to it is actually just asking you what is first command executed by this malware. The malware is the malware is this invoice.ps1, I think. So what was the first command executed by this malware is trying to determine the IP address. We see a lot of samd.exe if config. So this is definitely not normal. We see that some samd.exe sending to the registry to asking for the password. So this is definitely malicious in terms of cmd.ifconfig should not be executed that frequent. So that command is ifconfig, and among the several commands invoked by the malware, only a couple of commands were actually executed. The output sending back to the C2. What is HTTP request param in these cases? So for these questions, we can look for just searching for the HTTP in the request. We can find something in the HTTP request. So the answer is BTL equals YWE and BTL equals CGQ. So you basically you just look for you just look for that couple commands. Right, so you can look for like you can look for HTTP requests over here as well. So it will gives you the results faster. So so the command is YWE and ZGQ. So it is this two. Y2M. There's a 101 this is like numbers being sending out, but it is never getting executed. So this basically just doing like a trial and error. So you basically combine them, and so if you combine these two, it's actually giving you the right answer. But this one you just need to combine them and doing some trial and error. So sometimes, most time in the question, sometimes on the BTLO, you need to just doing the trial and error. That's the fastest way to resolve it. You don't have to figure out all the steps for the certain question. If you cannot find out, you can just try it and see if it works. So can you look at the body of the request response and figure out the encoding technique used? So I think this one is asking for like I'm not sure which one is asking for in the packet. ZGQ. I think it is asking for that couple. It is specifically asking for that two requests is being sending out. So we need to find out where they are. So I guess we can just look for them one by one and let's try something else. I guess we can use frame contains, right? Wireshark, they have frame contains. This is helpful. It's you basically you can like contain like a certain string. So you can use HTTP contents. You can use frame contents. But I found like a frame contents is most useful in the case where you cannot find out certain strings. We can just use frame contains. But let's just try frame contains. This it's asking for like YWE maybe. So I found in here that we have this frame contains, and we found this this one. So that is what we're looking for early. So it's basically asking for what is this encoding technique. So this is a little bit tricky. So you just gotta be like pretty much like I always said, doing a trial and error. So this looks like a base. If you do not look it carefully, there's like a tool on the machine you can use. I think it is investigations. It is a CyberChief. So they have like a CyberChief on the host you can use. So you don't have to go outside the host. So you can just input over here. So we see that this equals. It looks really like base 64. If you just trying to decode it with base 64, it won't work, right? So after some trial and error, you know that this is like a base 32. Base 32, you give back you some data over here, and it still does not make any sense. So I can potentially it does not make any sense, but that is so that actually gives you back some data. It is this one, but I guess that is a command they used. So it still looks kind of like obfuscated, but it's just asking for like what kind of encoding technique used. It is basic 32. Last two questions. This question asking for what two registry types that the malware queries. So you can just asking for You can just searching for the Regex query in the ALK, right? So it's asking for registry hives. Registry hives is this one, HKCU. It's basically query for password and the HKLM password. So it's asking for the password in the registry. And the last question is malware duplicated itself to a different file name and added itself to a scheduled tasks. What is a new file name? So the last question we can just so for this question we have like multiple options. So if you can search for this scheduled tasks in the, I think in the Windows you can search for the answer is BTL04, but if you search for like BTLO, you will find it does not give me any back BTL. So you have like BTL 04 over there. So I don't have any like specific notes for this one, but if you just look for so if you look for like a Wireshark, there is actually, it's pretty clear, I think. So you have like a BTL01.exe. So that is the initial executable is being downloaded, and if you look for the BTL0, I think. Oh yes, so I'm not sure why, but it just doesn't give me back the right answer. But this one is actually, if you just search for this correlate back to the Wireshark and correlate in the ALK, you can actually just find out this one is actually just associated with BTL04.exe, because you'll have the BTL 1.exe over here, and it's asking for malware duplicated itself. So you will pretty much 90% chance you'll guess it. This is like this one is a duplicated version for that BTL 1.exe. So that is for this invoice scenario on the Blue Team Labs Online. It is pretty fun, and I enjoyed it, and I highly recommend you guys go to check out. They just released this one, and thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time.